Hey everybody, what is going on? Hexlex here with another Master Duel video for you all. So here at the very end of the season, I don't know if this is actually coming out the last or second to last day of Season 9 here, but we finally got back around to our Ignister deck, which I started playing with around last season, or was it the end of Season 7? Sometime relatively recently anyway, and this very quickly became one of my favorite decks in Master Duel. I dare say it might just be my second favorite behind Tri-Brigade. I thoroughly enjoy this deck. I thoroughly enjoyed it when I first built it, and definitely am still enjoying it now. So the build we're playing here is a little bit tooled against Branded Despia in particular. I did update the deck very shortly after Branded Despia came out. I've not really touched it since then, but of course the format is mostly still the same, with Branded Despia and a little bit of Sword Soul kind of dominating tier 1, with the rest of the deck pool being relatively open. The rest of the meta, we're seeing a lot of different decks at tier 3, and this is of course according to Master Duel Meta's tier list, which is not necessarily representative of the ranked ladder. Of course, on a ranked ladder tier list, we would see more like A.I.ddle Liches and more, maybe a little more Numeron or something, I don't know. But in any case, Ignister is one of those decks that kind of like showed up in that batch of decks doing well in tier 3. I talked about this before in the meta analysis, where it very much feels like Branded Despia versus everything else right now. And Ignister is definitely a strong contender of the everyone else, of the everyone else category, so to speak. Whoa, sorry about that. That was a notification that popped up there. I need to really mute those. In any case, so in any case, the Ignister deck, like I said, very much one of my favorites. I'm still liking this build quite a bit. It's really similar to our last build. Honestly, the main difference is the lack of Crossout Designators, which actually does hurt this deck. This is one of those decks that gets impacted a little bit more by Crossout Designator going to 1 than certain other decks did, even other combo decks, right? Because Ignister is kind of like the combo-iest of all combo decks. I mean, not all combo decks. Maybe like Six Samurai might be a bit more involved, but suffice it to say, the combos in Ignister are very, very involved. It's a long process to get up to your Arrival Cybrse Ignister. A little bit less so if you're just going for like Update Jammer plus Accesscode. That's actually usually really easy to go into, but no, if you're trying to climb, especially up to a 6,000 Arrival Cybrse Ignister, then that can definitely be a bit of a stretch to do that, and there are a lot of choke points. I'm not gonna lie, there's a lot of points where you can get negated, and that really sucks. So that's why Crossout Designator at 3 definitely helped this deck a lot, and why Crossout Designator at 1 is definitely a little bit more impactful here than we see in other decks. That said though, this deck still has the strength that its combos are, while they are involved as far as like how they're played out, as far as what it takes to start them, it's really only one card. It's either the Achichi Ignister, the Pikari Ignister, or the A.I. meet, or the I meet you. That's right, it's I is how you pronounce that. Achichi, Pikari, or I meet you. As long as you open anywhere, or Cynet Mining to get the Achichi or Pikari. You'd want to get Achichi usually, I think, but in any case, if you just open any one of these 12 cards, like there's your 1-card combo right there. So that leaves a lot of room for a lot of disruption and hand traps. Again, like I mentioned earlier, this particular build is very much tooled against Branded Despia, right? We're playing 3 Effect Veiler, 3 Imperm, right? 2 Effect Veiler, and 2 Ghost Spells on top of that. Really, these Ghost Spells should probably be Ghost Ogres, I think would be just better generic hand traps. But like I said, I threw this build together like right after Branded Despia came out, and I was just mass updating all of my decks. So again, this one I did build in mind against specifically playing that deck, but especially if you're not up to Diamond 1 yet, we're still seeing a ton of Branded Despia out there. So this could still be considered, I think, a pretty solid build against the meta. Definitely still want something like Feather Duster I feel like you want Feather Duster in pretty much every deck right now in Master Duel, best of 1, unless of course you have in-archetype ways to deal with spells and traps. But we're seeing a decent amount of A.I.ddle Lich. We always have, but this point in the format in particular, as it tends to get later, or even this point in the meta, right, as things start to settle in, A.I.ddle Lich starts to creep its way back up and see more and more play. So definitely got to have something for them, as always as ever. Like I said, the main deck is really not that different. The build, it's not really much different at all now that I think about it. Like obviously we dropped the 2 designators, we added the 2 ghost spells. There's really not a whole lot else that we're doing that's different though. Extra deck is still exactly the same, so okay, now that we have covered the deck and talked a little bit about it, let's go ahead and break it down card by card just so we all know what's here, and then we'll go ahead and take a look at some games. So we are playing 2 Effect Veiler, 1 Hiyari at Ignister, 3 Maxx, 3 Achichi at Ignister, 3 Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, 2 Ghost Belle and Haunted Mansion, 1 Bururu at Ignister, 3 Pikari at Ignister, 1 Doyon at Ignister, 1 Danmari at Ignister, 1 Gatchiri at Ignister, 1 Nibiru the Primal Being, 1 Harpie's Feather Duster, 3 Cynet Mining, 3 I Meet You, 1 Fa.I.ghting Spirit, 3 Ignister Island, 2 Called by the Grave, 1 Crossout Designator, 1 A.I.dle Reborn, and 3 Infinite Impermanence. Down here in the extract, we're going to have 1 Wind Pegasus at Ignister, 1 Light Dragon at Ignister, 1 Link Spider, 1 Linguriboh, 2 Dark Infant at Ignister, 1 Cybrse Wicckid, 1 Update Jammer, 2 Splash Mage, 1 Transcode Talker, 1 Dark Templar at Ignister, 1 Fire Phoenix at Ignister, 1 Accesscode Talker, and then finally, the prime of all Link monsters, which I think is so cool. I just think this monster is so cool. It's the Arrival Cybrse at Ignister. It's even got a badass name. This card is really like why I love this archetype. It's cool. I think it's a very cool card. You know, I've said it before, I'll say it again, like, the towers type effect I think is totally fine if you have to jump through as many hoops as you have to jump through just to spit this bad boy out. But yeah, that's the build there, so now let's go ahead and take a look at some games. Okay, so this first duel is actually going to be a mirror match, and it's going to be one hell of a mirror match. This game definitely took quite a while. It's almost an exact mirror match, too. The builds are just slightly different. The differences in our builds is, well, the difference from our opponent's build to mine is they're playing -2 Ghost Belle, -1 Imperm, and then +1 Ghost Ogre, +2 Droplet. That's literally the only difference between our builds, which I can... Droplet is definitely... I think it's actually one of the cards that I forgot that I had taken out. And obviously is still very good for this deck, for going second in general. I think Droplet is not quite as good in this format, because it's not, like, it's pretty impactful against Sword Soul, but Branded Despia can get around it pretty easily. You know, not even chaining to it, but just waiting until it resolves and then fusing away some of this. Like, the timing is weirder, I think, against Branded Despia with Droplet. So, yeah, in any case here, it's kind of funny, right? We kind of bricked except for the one Achichi, in that, you know, we have, like, all, you know, answers, but it kind of seems like it doesn't just seem like it, it's definitely looking like our opponent bricked just as hard. I decided to go for the Linguriboh on turn 1 after the Achichi failed to resolve. I usually tend to do that, not always, but I tend to do that because... You know, if our opponent sets cards and then, you know, somehow the Linguriboh manages to live through the next turn, like, if we want to start our combos next turn and our opponent flips up an Imperm, well, then we can just Linguriboh it away. Which might sound really niche, but I've actually had that exact scenario happen before. So, yeah, if your first, you know, at Ignister monster gets stopped, I usually go for Linguriboh, again, just to potentially prevent future trap cards from disrupting future plays. Speaking of future plays, we did finally get an I Meet You. I say finally, it's only been 2 turns, rather, since our last play, and I'm going to go ahead and use that to add another Achichi here, which I will then normal summon to the field, but of course our opponent has an Ash Blossom this time. Very well can't Linguriboh that, and then without the Called By or Crossout, we are once again forced to just kind of let it get negated there. But I can link these two away and start making some amount of plays, right? I attempt to go for an access code here. I'm going to do so by summoning the Splash Mage, but then our opponent's got a Ghost Ogre, so, you know, it's pretty, you know, when your opponent dead draws, like, you gotta figure they're gonna have a lot of disruption available, because it means, you know, if they're not drawing combo pieces, like, what else could they be drawing? Slight misplay here, by the way. I should have summoned the Achichi in attack mode, battle with it, then gone into the Dark Infant main phase 2. I'm pulling the Dark Infant out here, even though I'm not comboing yet, because at this rate, I really just need to draw gas. I don't need to draw another Ignister Island. So I'm just going to go ahead and search that up and unbrick our hand at least a little bit. And get a little bit of, like, I say a little bit, like literally 300 extra damage with the Linguriboh, but you never know. Especially in a game like this where our opponent's not doing anything and they just keep passing back to us, like, that chip damage is the exact kind of game where that 300 points of chip damage could very easily make the difference. But the difference is so great that I want to, like, normal summon Maxx here. I kind of considered it. I honestly kind of considered it, but ultimately decided, nah, don't need to do that. So opponent's going to Cynet Mining and, funnily enough, throw out a Call By, which makes sense because they haven't really used theirs yet. And I'm imagining they have another Call By face down, which is why they threw that one out. So I'll Veiler here anyway, just to get it out of the way. Sure enough, here's the other Call By. I'm not worried at all, though, because obviously I have 2 Imperms face down. So yeah, I'll just go ahead and use a follow-up Imperm to negate that Achichi. if our opponent's going to fight to make sure we can't do anything, I'm definitely going to make sure to return the favor, so to speak. And of course, it is at this point that I realize, like, oh, shit, I'm actually playing against a mirror match here. That's kind of right. Well, obviously, I realized that when the Cynet... Well, I didn't necessarily realize that when the Cynet Mining came down, because this could still be using, like, Code Talkers or... I actually don't know if Salmon Great plays this. I have to imagine Salmon Great plays this card, but... yeah, we did find out specifically, again, that it was the mirror match here. So... I do manage to rip another Cynet Mining. Let's just hope this doesn't get ashed. It does not. We've managed to pull our third Achichi. This is actually our last Achichi out of the deck here. But then they have a droplet, so it's like, again, we kind of have to expect this, right? When our opponents brick and don't combo, you should anticipate that they have, like, all the answers in their hand. You should play accordingly. And that often means playing into them, right? Like, you see, I'm making all these plays even though... that one I thought might have resolved. Oh, and again, just want to search up more dead draws out of my deck here, so I'll go ahead and make another Dark Infant. Might not necessarily be correct to do that, because you do need these to get off your quote-unquote main combo, but we're well past turn 1. I'm not concerned about summoning the Arrival Cybrse at this point. I'm just concerned about getting an update jammer into Accesscode, like, as quickly as possible, especially as my opponent is somehow breaking even more than I am, just not doing anything. So... here we got the Gatchiri. This is definitely going to provide an opportunity to start making some plays, right? I can special the Gatchiri using its effect to negate the Dark Infant, and then special to my field, link those away for a Splash Mage. I can't do the update jammer play at this point into an Accesscode, but I can still go into an Accesscode. Really, as long as you have any 2 Cybrse monsters, like that's a 5300 Accesscode right there, because... you know, the Cybrse monsters link into the Splash Mage. Splash Mage brings back one of your Cybrse monsters. You can then go into Transcode here. Transcode can then bring back another Cybrse, or even like the same Cybrse monster. Or no, sorry, it doesn't have to bring back a Link monster. But yeah, you just bring back the Splash Mage you made, and then, you know, you can go into the 5300 Accesscode. Yeah, with this setup, unfortunately, we're not able to summon the update jammer just yet, but we can at the very least push in a lot of damage until our opponent failures our Accesscode, which again, not the most surprising thing in the world, just given how my opponent's been drawing, but, you know, they do only have a few resources left. At this point, it's like, wow, they really still had the Veiler too, but nah, it's alright. So, I hear they're going to normal summon the Bururu. I'm not going to Imperm yet, because that by itself doesn't do anything. I want to save it for the Dark Infant that I'm pretty sure is going to come down, which sure enough it does. Because I don't know, at this point I don't know what my opponent is missing, right? Like, for all I know, the Ignister Island could be the thing they need to combo off. Like, they could just have like a Pikari in hand right now. So I'm definitely going to go ahead and make sure to Imperm the Dark Infant. A Dark Infant is usually the choke point you want to hit anyway. When it comes to like Veiler, Imperm, Ash, just negating the deck in general. Using the Dark Infant to hit the Ignister Island, very, very crucial. Because that Ignister Island is by far the most important combo piece to add Ignister. We can't even come remotely close to doing everything we need to without Ignister Island. So, I've advocated for this even before I played at Ignister. I played against him enough to realize, like, you know, hey, this Dark Infant... Actually, now that I think about it, I think a comment pointed out to me that Dark Infant is a choke point. It probably was a comment. I'm honestly, I would very easily believe that you all told me more than I came up with it myself, so it was probably a comment. But in any case, yeah, even before I've been playing this deck, I've been advocating for this. Dark Infant, in my experience, is the best thing to hit with the when playing against at Ignister. So, sure enough, the opponent's going to pass, so that's definitely a very good sign that, you know, of course, they could have just been doing the same thing I was doing, which is, like, just getting dead draws out of the deck, but all the same. Now here we're in a little bit of a tricky spot. Our only, like, resource left is Called by the Grave. That's actually still fine, though, because, like, we can stop a Splash Mage mid-combo and potentially stop our opponent from going off, or an A.I.ddle Reborn. We definitely take those as well, so, like, we somehow, even though we didn't draw gas, we somehow at least managed to draw the perfect disruption for our opponent's gas. So that's nice. Gas being a phrase that I like to use for combo pieces, basically. And then the opponent just activates an Ignister Island and passes. So this is finally going to draw the conclusion of our 15 turns. This was a 15-turn mirror match here. Oh yeah, and I just kind of like played everything just to... Because I knew my opponent had to be at least somewhat curious about what all was in my hand. So it's like, oh yeah, here we go. It's all 3 Ignister Islands and this Danmari. And of course the Nibiru that we never end up using, which you could have very easily used as disruption ourselves against our opponent. But yeah, wow. Finally managed to come out on top after a 15-turn mirror match, which is definitely not a game... I've not had games go that long often. I don't know that I've had another 15-turn game that I've kept and like thought was actually a good replay, to be honest. But even though this one was a lot of us dead drawing, like, I think it's still really crucial to show how a deck plays when it dead draws, and not just when it combos. Like, if you are interested in seeing how this deck combos, feel free to go ahead and check out the description where I do have a combo guide linked that'll show you how to make all those fun plays that are very, very complex. But, you know, that information is very readily available. I feel like information about games where you dead draw is not nearly as available. So, you know, even though, again, this game kind of like got drawn out as a result, I feel like it's nice to still show what you can do and what you should do and anticipate when both you dead draw and the opponent dead draws. So, all right, now that we've taken a look at that lengthy game, let's go and take a look at some more. All right, so we're playing against Sword Soul Tenny. We're playing against a 47-card variant that is playing 3 non-fusion area. I'm going to give everyone a little pro tip here. Don't main deck non-fusion area. It's not a good idea. It's just not. Like, yes, the vast majority of the field might be branded Despia right now, because I've even seen posts about this on the subreddit, right, of people being like, oh, just main deck this one card and branded Despia is not a problem, and it's a picture of non-fusion area. I'm not a fan of main decking very specific hate cards in a best of one format like Master Duel here. The main reason for that, honestly, is because, like, even if it feels like you're playing, and feel is the very important distinction there, even if it feels like you're playing against nothing but branded Despia, you are playing against other decks. You're playing against many other decks, like, and even if, you know, 40% of your games are against branded Despia, like, that is a lot. I'm not gonna lie, that is a lot to play against one deck. That's even still not the vast majority of your games, right? It's, in fact, by definition, the minority of your games you're playing against branded Despia. So, like, main decking these hate cards that you're not even guaranteed to draw against the decks they're good against, and will be very dead against decks they're not good against, I don't think is the way to go. Like, if you want to main deck another Floodgate that doesn't hurt your deck and also can impact branded Despia, but is more generalized, I think that is a much better idea. Of course, now I'm trying to think of what an example of that would be, but it's not non-fusion area, I'll tell you that. Because if we were in a format where, like, it was branded Despia, Shaddolls, and Heroes were, like, the top 3 decks, like, then maybe you could get away with main decking non-fusion area if you're playing a non-fusion deck, but that's still, like, really specific. I don't know. I guess my main point I'm trying to make here is don't main deck side deck cards in Master Duel. It doesn't work. It just doesn't work. Not ones that are as specific as non-fusion area. Stuff like Nibiru and Feather Duster, that's different because those are useful against, like, large swaths of decks, not just, like, one deck in particular. I know I always say, like, oh, main deck Feather Duster for Eldritch, but, like, obviously destroying spell and trap cards is still useful against, like, many other decks, even other combo decks. For hitting, like, a face-down random call by or crossout that gets set, right? So, yeah, I just think it's really important to make sure that we're not kind of falling into that trap, right, where we're thinking, like, oh, I want to beat branded Despia so badly I'd be willing to play non-fusion area. It's like, well, I don't know about that. Yeah, sorry, I didn't even talk about this game at all as it's been playing out here. So, our opponent had a Sword Soul setup that was, like, decent. It was really only just the level 10, right? Just the Supreme Sovereign Chengying. They dropped a couple of back rows, which both turned out to be called buys. We did have the Crossout for the one, but they actually did have the other call buy to put a damper on the rest of our plays there. So, we're still, I was trying to go for the Update Jammer access code line. We're still able to go for the access code. Didn't use this effect because obviously we don't want the Chengying to get off its effect where it banishes cards. It did already get off the effect where it banished one of our cards, but, or no, it didn't actually. I think we managed to play around that and avoid that. No, wait, but they called by. I think what actually happened is that they played, again, this is why I should have been paying attention. I think they played call by and then, yeah, they didn't. No, okay, they did use the Chengying's effect. Well, in any case here. Oh, that's how we got mainly interrupted more than the call by was the Chengying. Right, because it banished our Ignister Island. Of course. Sorry, I just had to, like, refresh myself with this game that I talked over. But, yeah, that's going to keep us from going Update Jammer access code necessarily. But we're still able to, obviously, pull out the victory. And the opponent realizes that even, you know, their Sacred Summons bring the Chengying back still doesn't do anything against a 5300 access code Talker. So, yeah, we're still able to come out on top fairly easily there. And, you know, I talked about consistency. I talk about consistency a lot in terms of Master Duel because in a best of one format, it really is the most important thing to have for your deck. And honestly, another reason not to run these side deck cards like non-fusion area is I do feel my opponent's build is hampered in consistency by, one, playing 47 cards. I think it's way too many for Sword Soul Tenny. And two, playing the non-fusion areas. Like I said, my opponent's deck is 47 cards, and with 7 less cards, that's a lot. That's a lot. My opponent would have been much more likely to draw more gas if they had not been playing those excess cards there. But in any case, now that we have covered this game, let's go ahead and move on to the next one. Oh, you know what? This game is against, or it's with Branded, so I should actually... No, I'm not going to keep this one. Wrong deck, wrong deck. Oh, no, it's the right deck. Huh, alright. I'll just keep this game then. I was going to cut all that of me saying I was playing against the wrong deck, or I was playing with the wrong deck, because I thought this was a different replay, but nope. This is actually an Ignister replay. We're playing against Flongaries. They're going to drop down a Dimension Shifter on us, but fortunately we do have the call by. We do need the Dimension Shifter to not resolve here. That is obviously going to be important for our deck, as we do pull a decent amount of stuff out of the graveyard in order to use for our combo there. So, yeah, we'll go ahead and use the I Meet You for the Achichi at Ignister here. I actually technically didn't even need to use the I Meet You, because I did open with, right, I gotta wait for this before you let me scroll up, which is really dumb, but I opened with the Pikari, so I could just normal summon the Pikari, but I decided to throw out the I Meet You just to see if my opponent had an Ash. I wanted to use it to test for an Ash, and also potentially be bait for an Ash Blossom. Now, granted, that wouldn't have let me go into my full combo if I had done that, but all the same, again, I just wanted to make sure that we had it here. Although, I think I'm actually still able to go for a full, quote-unquote, full combo because I have the Hiyari. Oh, no, it's because I opened the Bururu, that's right. I was trying to figure out why I didn't need the Doyon here. Usually you need to search up the Doyon with the Cybrse and summon it in the zone the Cybrse Wicckid points to, but that's right, that's to add the Bururu, which we already had in our opening hand. So, yeah, if you've got the Bururu in hand in that regard, you can kind of do what I did and just skip the step where you go into Cybrse Wicckid, but honestly, the combo is very involved, so if you're feeling like maybe you don't, like, that's a bit much, like, you're like, are you sure I can see it? You just do the regular way. Like, you're not missing out on that much, like, by saving the Cybrse Wicckid. It's not like we're really going to use it later or anything, so, if you have to default to the regular combo line to remember how it goes, I would definitely advise doing that. So here I also, I was trying to figure this out mid-game, and I kind of wanted to figure this out during this replay, too. I think I was supposed to link away this to add Ignister Wind Pegasus. I'm basically trying to figure out if I could have set up a 6,000 attack, what do you call it? A 6,000 attack Arrival Cybrse at Ignister, because I thought I had at least set up a 5k, but with my attributes and the way that I set up my materials, I still was only able to go for a 4k one, because I wasn't able to get like 5 different attributes and still have it add up to a link 6. That can be kind of challenging sometimes. Like, just trying to make sure that you add up, like, to the right number of materials and different attributes to make a good Arrival Cybrse at Ignister. So, those of you who know this tech better than I do, I'm looking for you in the comments here, right? I really feel like I could have made a 6,000 attack Arrival here. I know I could have made 5k, I just kind of screwed up by, like, what monsters I summoned a little bit here, but I really feel like even with the, what hand trap do they have? Oh, no, I feel like even... Oh, no, yeah, they had the Dimension Shifter, right, that we negated. But I feel like I really could have made a 6k Arrival Cybrse here. So those of you, again, who know this deck better than I do, definitely let me know in the comments how this play could have turned out. I'm very, very, very eager to learn. Of course, our opponent ends up conceding, right? Even a 4k Arrival Cybrse is a lot to contend with, but the 6k is nice to be able to run over Accesscode Talkers. That's like the main reason you want to have a 6k Arrival Cybrse, right? Because then, even with a 5k one, a lot of decks are playing Accesscode Talker and can make it at 5,300 attack, and that would still be enough to win out there. So yeah, like I said, you definitely want to make sure that you are going for 6k when you can. And I think I could have in this scenario. I just don't see exactly how. I would very much like some input there, those of you who have it. But we do have one more game to look at. Let's go ahead and jump straight into it. All right, last duel here is going to be against Branded Tri-Brigade, which was... one of the last decks we actually played relatively recently here on the channel. I definitely do plan on going back to this deck, rather that deck being my opponent's deck, the Branded Tri-Brigade. I plan on coming back to this deck too, at Ignister, as I've mentioned. I am quite enthralled with this deck. I love the way that it plays, and here is something though that kind of makes me not want to play Branded Tri-Brigade, or specifically Rescue Cat and Branded Tri-Brigade. This is kind of an issue I've had with Rescue Cat, like, the whole time, because I've seen a lot of people, like, over the season say, like, you should run Rescue Cat and Tri-Brigades. It's really good. It can make plays. It's a one-card play, and it is a one-card play, but it's also susceptible to like every hand trap under the sun and uses your normal summon. So it's also kind of like, yeah, it's a 1-card combo, like a really good 1-card combo, but it's also kind of like a, it's just good disruption bait in terms of like good for the one doing the disrupting. So again, in that regard, I kind of tend to I prefer to avoid the F and the V, or I got mixed up there. I prefer to avoid making it when possible. Wow, I really thought this game went on longer than that. Yeah, no, the opponent just conceded as soon as I dropped the cross out because in revealing the Hiyari and also the fact that I have the Gatchiri, really my opponent conceded very prematurely here. The Hiyari here really only means that I can make a 5300 Arrival Cybrse. Now, the fact that I had the Gatchiri does actually mean I can make the 5300 one that can attack twice with the Update Jammer. Basically, the idea here is I would special the Hiyari, use Gatchiri, negate one of my dudes to special it, link into Splash Mage. Splash Mage brings back... oh, you know what, though? Update Jammer takes level 2 or higher Cybrse monsters. I don't know if I actually had that. Oh, no, then I could have just used the Splash Mage to bring back the... No, because then I still would have had to use... Listen to me, I'm trying to like figure out if I could actually have lethal here. No, let me actually think about this for a second. Okay, special Hiyari, special Gatchiri, link into Splash Mage. Splash Mage... Hang on, let me see something real quick. Did I have another level 2? Okay, no, I had the Doyon, right. So, okay, never mind. I could have just used the Doyon. So I was going to say, I thought I had another Ignister there. I would have had to for the... Dark Infant to be on board, but I mean that's the thing about this deck, right? Like there are so many moving parts that do so many different things. Like it can be hard to keep straight in your head. I won't lie. But yeah, so that is how I would have planned to lethal this game. Again, is by making the Update Jammer and Access Code. Again, special Hiyari, special Gatchiri, link these, bring back summon Splash Mage, Splash Mage bring back Doyon, Doyon and Gatchiri make Update Jammer, and the Splash Mage make the access code, and because of Update Jammer, it can attack twice at 4,300, not 5,300, but that's still obviously 8,600 damage, which is enough for lethal here. So, all right, now that we have covered these games, let's move on now to the outro. Okay, everybody, just want to give a huge thanks to those of you who are watching all the way to the very end like this. I very, very much appreciate that. Especially for an Ignister video, because I love this deck. And if you've watched this far, that probably means you love this deck too. So, this is and continues to be, like I mentioned before, just one of my favorite decks of all time here in Master Duel. Yeah, it's just Arrival Cybrse, very, very cool card. Love it. I really need to watch Vrains, honestly, especially that last season. I kind of followed it on the subreddit, like what generally was happening, just from posts that were being made, but yeah, and I've seen clips of like the final duel. I'm just gonna gush about Ignister if I don't move on with the outro, so I'm just gonna go ahead and move on with the outro at this point. Yeah, thank you also those of you who are commenting and subscribing. Again, also means a lot to me personally and is a great way of supporting the channel. Comments, as always as ever, those of you who are more dedicated to the deck that I'm featuring, I love it when you chime in because I try to feature a lot of different decks, and I end up being a jack of all trade, master of none. So masters of Ignister, especially with that game where I feel like I could have made a 6K rather, or a 6K Arrival Cybrse. I said code because I was thinking of access code. Regardless, I am looking for feedback. Always am, always will. So definitely don't be afraid to share it down there in the comments. And yeah, subscribing is not only, like I said, a good way to support the channel, but also gives you notifications of when my videos drop, which does happen every single day. So you do have daily Master Duel content to look forward to when you subscribe there. But that is all the time that I have for today. So without further ado, this is XLex. I'm signing out, and I hope you guys have a fantastic day.